Díomh agus fáilte Ash, you're all very welcome to another episode of Irish in Toronto. Today I'll be chatting with Cormac Lochlainn. Cormac came to Canada from Clonsilla, Dublin in 2010. One of the few times it wasn't fun to be in Dublin, according to him anyways, and has settled into a Canadian banking career over the last 15 years. Cormac is currently an Executive Vice President and Partner at Stonebridge Financial, a Toronto-based asset manager. Since coming to Canada, he's been a player and treasurer with St. Pat's GAA and recently chaired the Ireland Fund St. Patrick's Day Luncheon coming out of COVID. He's also been known to put a pint for ICAN, the Irish Canadian Immigration Centre, and support various Irish expat community initiatives across the city. Cormac is a long-time resident of the East End with his wife and Toronto Irish Player Secretary Sue Murphy. When he's not pushing pennies, Cormac enjoys some downtime skiing, golfing, hiking with Pixie the cockapoo, or preparing for the next Hyrox race. I would still encourage people to download the episodes and to share them with friends and family. Downloads are the easiest indicator for me to gauge how many people I'm reaching with these conversations, so I would really appreciate it. I begin our chat by asking Cormac about when he first came to Canada.
Canada was always an option. At the time, I was kind of lucky enough. I'd done kind of an exchange program, an Erasmus program over to the States in Delaware of all places, and I really enjoyed it. But it was, there's no real connectivity with like an Irish community at that point, and part of it for me was, well, it'd be nice to move over to the US with an Irish company at some point, and that kind of, because I'd worked a lot at home, and seeing that dynamic of just work environment, it seemed it would be an awesome place to live, but with an Irish connectivity.
And that was important for you, the Irish connectivity?
It was at the time, and that kind of continues to evolve, obviously. But so at the time that was part of the thinking, and then so I did that for a time, and ended up working with Smith Barney, which is part of Morgan Stanley now, a Citigroup at the time, but it was more of a boutique research role, like for quant research it's called, where you're doing a lot of coding and stuff in the background. So that kind of lit the fire, I suppose, into moving in general or outside of Ireland and getting out and exploring a bit more. But I had a sense of the US at that point, and it was North America in general is something that's like that really appealed to me, just like longer term. So then went back home after that. Ended up working with Allied Irish Bank in more of a kind of a research role, and into like corporate banking and lending into private equity companies and stuff of that nature. And there was always, the group that I was in, there was always an opportunity where you would jump across the seas. It was kind of like a training ground for a move, essentially. But it also also met Sue at that point as well. So while you were working 2 or 3 months of the year in New York, I got a flavor for New York. I felt through that experience, and well, it was very, very enjoyable. I just didn't feel that was the right fit for me personally. I thought New York's great in your 20s, and it's a phenomenal city. But when you get into your 30s and maybe your priorities change, like you could see how that hard driving kind of lifestyle mightn't be for everybody. So Toronto seemed like a good balance on that. So when the opportunity came to make the jump, it was a little delayed because there was a global financial crisis at the time.
Great timing.
Yeah. So the global financial crisis kicked off, and that was a great learning experience. And anybody who tells you it's a great learning experience means it was a tough time to work through. But you learned a lot, and then the opportunity came to kind of really reboot the branch or the outpost here in Toronto for AIB. So fast forward, so moved over in 2010 to kind of really do that, help build out the lending program. They were already really established here, and it was a very clean loan book at the time. But soon thereafter the kind of Eurozone crisis kicked off, which was one crisis to another. And with that, the bank was looking to sell its good china first, I suppose. So it exited a lot of the easier sell loan books and branches and whatnot. But we were the only branch to actually broker our own sale, and then we brokered into a sale to Raymond James, which I worked for 11 years, and then ended up working with Stonebridge. So that's more of the career trajectory of it. But I guess why Toronto, and why did I stick it out? Toronto. Once I'd never actually been to Canada. I'd read a lot around it, and
the amount of people that say that their first time landing here was are they committed to moving already? It's fascinating.
Yeah, I'd committed to a move, but it was always and this is a common with everybody. It was a short-term move. It was Sue had a career break at a time, and it kept on extending out. And it was, first it was 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and then it could go to 5 years, and then it wasn't going back.
Was she a teacher?
That. She was working in she was on the admin side, working in the geography department with UCD at the time. So that changed, and then we ended up staying here. So it was an easier kind of transition over because unlike some other folk who kind of arrive and really applaud people's bravery, kind of arriving in with a suitcase and whatnot into a new city. A lot of when I came over, a lot of the tougher part of the move were kind of helped with, but you still have to build your own kind of network and everything else for there. So, and once I arrived in Toronto, just the lifestyle in general was what really appealed, and that's what really kept you from moving elsewhere. It's I really like just even the simplicity of having blue sky days.
No, it's nothing simple about that.
And blue sky thinking as well that comes with North America in general, like Canada generally. There's generally more on the optimistic than the negative side, I find, in Ireland. And in part and in the UK as well, in certain spots, there's a inherent negativity in everything. It's pervasive in society, right?
Yeah.
Nobody it's hard to shake people out of that mentality, and it's a not a begrudgery, but maybe partly that. But there's no applauding for success in some respects, or. And just to have, it was refreshing to see a more optimistic outlook on things, then you had a lot easier lifestyle over here than you would have back home. And
what do you mean by easier lifestyle?
So easier,
I agree with you, but I'm curious as to
so easier lifestyle for me is for how you how you can various different activities that you can actually plan around the weather a little bit. Makes a big difference. You can have that barbecue on the weekend, and maybe there's the wet shower, but it's not going to be a whole washout. You can go skiing in the winter, even though it's not as great in Ontario, but it's not too bad to kind of drive to Quebec, or jump on a plane if you so choose to get skiing elsewhere, or just access to the lakes in the summertime, and get on jump on a kayak or a canoe or a sup and get out there and do a bit of fishing and stuff. It just feels it's a lot more accessible in Toronto than it is elsewhere, or particularly Ireland.
Yeah, is the work, because I didn't realise you actually moved kind of just after the financial crash. I've met a lot of people who moved here during that time or after that time, but I don't think I've ever talked to anyone who was in the kind of industry at that time. So I'm kind of asked, is the lifestyle of work here? We were talking before we went on air about how it's a bit more relaxed here, but you still achieve things at work. It's not like we're lazy in work, we're still getting stuff done, but it seems to be more relaxed. Do you find that's a pervasive Canadian thing, or is it just we're more relaxed because we're in a different place, and maybe we don't feel an external pressure because we don't know anybody here, even though now we do because we're established. But
do I find it's more relaxed? So there's in the banking industry and through two different crises, Canadians in can be very, very pleasant to work with up front, but they're not upfront in how they approach work and business. So they may take in everything that you've said and then in the background disagree wholeheartedly with you.
Which is tough to do.
Which is sometimes tough to work with. So like most of the institutions that I've worked with, they've had either a US management focus or a US mentality, and sometimes like in certain respects I prefer the directness, and Irish people can be very direct as well in how they work, and I tend to prefer that than some, say some Canadians work, but they, Canadians in general they're quite pleasant to work with. It's just sometimes when it comes to difficult situations, which happen.
It's inefficient to be agreeing with someone face to face, and then
it's inefficient, and you do need to have. There's an avoidance of confrontation sometimes, which nobody likes confrontation.
Yeah.
But Canadians can be a little. They can be all smiles and not tell you the what they're truly on. I found in certain business dealings, but in the day to day, it's like a very very pleasant kind of working environment. So it's different.
I'd agree that the comments you made about the lack of praising in Ireland, I found when I first came here and people were telling me how great a job I was doing, I was thinking, I'm just doing my job, like I'm not really doing anything, and it's just kind of it makes you feel really good about yourself. So there's pros and cons of both places, and I think if we can take the pros of Ireland, maybe the directness, but then add the appraisal that you get here that maybe we're not used to getting at home, and try and create as nice an environment, because it's just nice. We're all sensitive souls. We like being told that we're doing a good job, even if we know we believe it ourselves. It's nice for someone else to tell us every now and again.
Yeah, the external validation of that.
Yeah. Unfortunate. It's a bit sad, but it's true. Like.
Yeah, no, it's definitely helpful. So yeah, I found that's been refreshing to kind of when you come to Canada and you get that like a lot more.
Your involvement in the Irish community, so you wanted to come to an Irish company. I know you through the work we've done, these huge luncheons which we're going to talk about that you organise. You're kind of, I call you the man in the background, but you're the main man. Like you're probably the person who's the least likely person to come on a podcast and talk about themselves. You seem very, I don't know if introverted the right word, I just don't think you like talking about yourself. Even at those events, you give your 2-minute speech and you go back. And despite the fact that you're leading the whole thing. My point is, what's your relationship with the Irish community been like before you kind of came with Ireland itself, and then how has it evolved while you've been living here?
So before I kind of came, it was very much involved. Like, so, I went to all Irish kind of schools growing up, all the way up to secondary school. Played fiddle, played GAA, playing football and hurling and stuff like that.
Where was your school and what was the GAA club?
So my school, big shout out to Neil O'Callaghan, who was the Dublin hurling manager, was with my class, growing up. So School Katrina, in behind the Fina.
He's a teacher there.
He was in my class, through the whole secondary school. So yeah.
We're recording this 2 days after Dublin beat Limerick in the All-Ireland quarter-final in one of the best matches of the century. They're called
one of the biggest turn-ups in hurling, and probably Dublin's biggest hurling day. Really turn over Limerick like that is with a man down. It's just something else. So.
And Skull Katrina was the school where you were.
Yeah, Skull Katrina was the school, and so from an Irish perspective, had to carry the Irish surname. I'm the only one of my 4 other brothers and who decided to carry the Irish surname forward. So it was a big part of it as well, and you kind of definitely embrace it. And even when I was in the States, I'd play I'd play in a trad band or a trad session every every Wednesday night, like in the depths of Delaware, and it was always fun. It was fun to bring it out. Like you played, when I played rugby over there in the States, like it was, they'd always, you'd have a night out with the team, and the fiddle would come out at the end of the night sometimes. So it's something you kind of embraced a lot, and then coming over here. Like I kind of jumped into the GA community with St. Pat's. I had known why St. Pat's was. There was a connection from, I think, like one of the clubs back home, or just my club back home. I had played there in the past, and that kind of started off with St. Pat's, and then you get involved from there. So there's always a lack of people who want to actually do the actual work, and you realize
you got roped into the admin
side. You get roped in. So I was a treasurer there for a couple of years, with St. Pat's, and then other priorities took over, like with working that and kind of working on other non-profits, and more like in the not in the Irish space. And then come COVID time, like one of the better days of the year on the Irish calendar was the luncheon that the Ireland Funds had run, and was chatting to some buddies here who, like, between us, like, we were debating. I was like, well, it doesn't seem like anyone else is carrying the torch on this. Maybe we'll run our own little lunch. We probably get to 400 people, like, by ourselves. But I did know some of the Ireland Funds board, and wanted to see where things were at with them, if they were looking to bring it back or not, because it was a year or two after.
So this COVID. Is a luncheon that would have had huge crowds at it for years before COVID, close to 1,000 people or more.
Close to 1,000 people. Like, so, the luncheon's been around like since the early 80s, and it's changed. It's evolved over those years, and it would have been chapters across Canada too, and a big focus to Northern Ireland and the Truth and Reconciliation, I guess, in terms of peace process and looking to kind of bridge the gap between the communities as well. And that was very much a focus, and at the time in the 80s and 90s, like, was a very attractive cause for a lot of people, and a worthwhile cause, and gained a lot of momentum in that way. It was also like a very, very, it was a super fun day, like,
it's a great day
over the course of the year. So it evolved from there, and I would say post GFC, like, some of the corporates started to refocus on different things. And maybe the numbers had waned a little, but it was still coming out of coming into COVID in 2020. Like, that was peak time just before lockdown, so it was a super spreader event.
You had it just before COVID kicked in.
Just before COVID kicked in, the luncheon.
First week of March, usually.
Yeah, it would have been like 800 or 900 people, probably, like in the convention center. Everybody elbowed in people's armpits and PJs after, and
at least you got a day out. It
was in around that time, it was the start of March, like 2020. Like, there was cases there's another big conference for mining conference, the PDAC conference, that was also in the convention center. So, people were starting to hear of, like, there's a couple of cases here and there, and so it was already in the community at that point. So then 2 weeks later, we didn't get back going for a couple of years after that. So
you talk about the numbers, that you said they've waned. Like, my first time ever going was in 2020, either 22 or 23. I can't remember exactly which year, but either way, I was blown away by how big it was. Like, it blows my mind that it was bigger, because it seems so. I'd never been in a apart from sporting events, a huge event like that with hundreds of people, shoulder to shoulder, as you said, or elbow to elbow, and food and drink. And it's the best thing about it is that it's on a Friday. I think that's there's a sensation of waking up, but it feels like it's Christmas Day or something. You're waking up, you don't have to go to work. You might have to go for an hour or two in the morning, and you're down at this, and it's just
I heard someone call it's like the Galway races.
it's definitely like a bit like the Galway. It's actually it is more like the Galway races than Christmas Day.
Yeah, it's like Galway races, white collar St. Paddy's Day, but it's a fun day out. But like for a great cause, and has supported a number of different initiatives over the years, and the Ireland Funds. The more I got to know of what the Ireland Funds have done, particularly like both in Canada and globally, it's like, well, it would be an awful shame for it to go to waste, and for that data bars and other initiatives that the Ireland Funds have done over the years for that to pass. So took that on to get it, and we started with a smaller number than the 1,000 number in the past. We were at like over 500 in the first year, and then last year, or this March past, we were maybe 650 or so in terms of attendees. So it's gradually kind of building momentum to where it was. But I think the location that it is now is like definitely it works very well, and we'd like to keep it in there in that space for a few years.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant, and we've been very fortunate here at the university to be benefactors. So it's been great. We're looking forward to next March already.
Yeah.
But that kind of because your relationship with home, because it looks to me like you're. I always hesitate asking this question because it's it's personal, but do you intend on staying here? Do you think?
So do I intend on staying here? Yeah, for the foreseeable future. Like any diaspora folks that I've chatted to, it's there. Once you've made the initial jump, you always think, oh well, then at some point you'll go home eventually. But as it was explained to me before, that once you get past your kind of 2-year phase, the Ireland that you're going back to, or wherever you're going back to, girlfriends become wives, wives have kids, or boyfriends become husbands, or whatever. People, you're out of lockstep with the community that you've left behind. And you're crystallized at that point in time to that view of where you were, and what you think of that, think of the community and what you had at that period of time. You can never go back to exactly where things were, and things change. And oftentimes when you go back, and I've heard this from other folks, and I've seen it sometimes within my own friend network. Though some use different friend networks, but some of them, it's like sometimes they only get together when once or twice a year, and sometimes it's only when you go back that they always like, oh yeah, well, we haven't seen each other since you came back, kind of thing. Because people have different priorities, they've got family obligations and stuff like that too. So what brings you back is really the people and family. Like that's what would bring you back home. But to go back now, it's not really it's not on the cards near term. But who knows?
Yeah, no, it's a fair enough answer. I think it's very honest and realistic answer that a lot of people give, is that the idea is you think you've made one jump, so the jump back would be just as easy, but the jump back could be often more difficult because it might seem more permanent or something like that, I feel, compared to coming here initially. You come over on your 2 years, as you said, it's a short-term thing, and the idea of going back, in your head it feels like a more permanent thing if it happens, so people are more hesitant maybe to do so.
Yeah, it's as hard to move back at it as it was to move over after a short period of time, right? You have to your accumulation of stuff just doesn't decrease, right?
No, definitely not. Yeah.
So that's that goes along a lot of different avenues. So to move back is a big move, and I applaud people who do go back for their reasons, and people who do go back, it's there's pros and cons to going back, the same as there's pros and cons to living here, and there's some you're not necessarily going to get, you don't necessarily get exactly what what you think, but hopefully it's exactly what it's what you want longer term.
Yeah, it's a good way of looking at it. I'm curious, have you always been an east part of the city kind of person since you moved?
No, not at all. Like when we looked to buy a house a couple of years ago, like our criteria was very much like transit orientated, proximity to getting to downtown. So we looked at, I don't know how many houses we looked at, like 40 plus, and they were all over the city. Like somewhere in, somewhere around the Ozathan, somewhere like Blur West, then up in Young and Egg. Yeah. Then we eventually kind of settled around like around the East End and like Riverdale, North Riverdale, or Playder Estates in that kind of like pocket, because we really like the Riverdale Park and
that's lovely there,
and the access you have to the city. Yeah, it's great views and of the city, and just it's pleasant. And on the East End particularly, like there is actually a great little Irish community on the East End, but the density is so like low relative to the rest of the city. It's just easier to commute and get around, and it makes it more hospitable, and you're less frustrated in traffic and stuff on the East End than you are sat in the West End. So we're very pretty happy with the move out east. But when we came over initially, we were down in City Place. Actually, like I lived on Elm Street for a couple of months, like at the very start. But then we moved.
Which street? Elm Street.
Elm Street.
That's where I live.
Oh yeah.
What was your address?
Oh, I couldn't even tell you now. It was opposite the Queen and Beaver there.
38?
Yeah, I think so.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's where I live.
There you go.
Giving out my address on the podcast.
I know where to find you now.
Straight across from the Queen and Beaver. I don't know how we didn't make that connection before. That's gas.
Yeah, it's good. Like it's got a nice neighborhoody feel, despite where it being right in the heart of things.
It's very busy, but it's I like it because it's obviously it's close to where I work, but also because it's a little bit quieter. You can kind of, but it's not as residential as as maybe. Well, the density is just so high. You've got a lot of large condo buildings in that area.
Yeah. Well, you've got large condo building, but like that building, it's like an older building, so you actually got better suite size.
I fully agree. Yeah, it's great. I'm very fortunate. The Queen and Beaver. My father, it's quite a British pub, and my father went there for a pint his first night when he visited, and the following night he was like, "It's a bit expensive, the Queen and Beaver," and I was like, "Yeah, like there's other pubs around." I went to direct him, down a little bit onto Dundas. And he just said, no, like he said, it's too easy. Like it is literally, you walk out the front door and it's 10 metres across the road and you're inside in the Queen and Beaver. So he stuck to it each night, despite the fact I don't think he was too fond of the place, but it was just
you got
the convenience.
Like Johnny's in there, and it's a good house spot. Like, so that's one of my uncle passed in COVID, and that was one of the last times we spent was there. So
yeah, that's kind of nice. Yeah, was he wasn't living here, your uncle?
No, he was. He did a job with Aer Lingus, so he used to come in, and they used to stay in the hotels around there. So yeah, we used to meet up there.
Ah, that's nice. Yeah, I do. I watch Man United matches there sometimes. I do admit, but just again the convenience of it. It's so close. This has been great. I'm delighted you sat down to talk about this.
Yeah.
Your siblings, are they all in Ireland, or was there a desire to move on their half as well?
No, so I got one brother over here who I think you know. So he's a bit of a character.
Full stop.
Yeah. So he's been over here a good few years now. I'm not going to put a number on it because I'll get it wrong. But yeah, he stayed with me for a couple of months. So we call him the lodger.
Even still,
it's hard to shake it. So yeah, so he's over here, and then we've got 4 younger brothers, all brothers. One's in Scotland, where he's working he's an academic as well, so he's a professor in economics over there. And then one's doing a PhD over in the UK as well. Another's back home in Dublin town, and so then Queemeat's over here as well. So yeah, it's a good spread out, and they're actually all for the first time coming for the first time in a summer, but not all together. They're coming over this summer. So,
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, they've been at different times before, but like not all at the same.
What's the reason for that? Just for the crack? Just have you all?
It just so happened. I think they hadn't really come over since COVID. So, and last year we had a family wedding where we all got together, and so that was it was it's always great to have family come in, and it's always great to say goodbye too. So.
Everyone says that as well. Yeah, we all love it until it runs its course a little bit.
Yeah, so it was it's great to have. Looking forward to it now. The first batch comes over at the weekend, so
lovely.
Yeah, we're all set up for that. Good. So that'll be fun. But yeah, 4 younger brothers, and they're all over the place.
They look up to you for advice, like you're the big brother.
It's funny. So yeah, talking to the brothers, and so there's a bigger age gap between all of us. So like, the youngest brother's in like his late 20s now, and he has the advantage of he'll go to certain brothers for certain things. So nice. He goes to me for financial advice because I've been working in finance for a while. He'll go to another brother for career advice on his career trajectory because he's more moving into the academic world. He'll go to the middle brother for more kind of practical advice, life advice, I think. And then the he's very close to like the brother who's back in Dublin. So. Yeah. There's he's got the benefit of having that little brotherly network, but he's had much more to benefit. As the older brother, you feel a little bit responsible, I guess.
Yeah, good. Enjoy the crack with your brothers, and thanks very much for doing this.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, cheers.
Really hope you enjoyed that chat with Cormac. He was very giving of his time. His dedication to giving back in the Irish community in Toronto does not go unnoticed. I really enjoyed the great conversations we had, whether recorded or just shooting the breeze. Once again, all feedback is welcome. You can email me. My email address is in the description of the podcast, or you can find me on social media. It's always lovely getting messages from strangers and talking about the podcast and their stories of what brought them to Toronto. I would still encourage people to download the episodes and to share them with friends and family. Downloads are the easiest indicator for me to gauge how many people I'm reaching with these conversations, so I really appreciate it. Thanks to Natty Barbuzzi, who provided the logo for the podcast, and thanks to Shannon Heaton, who provided the music you are now listening to. You'll find all of her music on Spotify. There'll be another episode of Irish in Toronto in 2 weeks, and until then, slán go fóill.